We're back for the second time today, this time to take a look at the hardwood as we set some expectations for the basketball team in this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day, and a shout-out to my everydayers who are here every day. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. And, of course, you can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. We're back, second time today. Talked football earlier today, so if you're looking for the gridiron, it's the previous podcast. Go ahead and check that one out. This podcast is going to be discussing the basketball team, and we are just over a week away from tip-off, and I'm very excited about this season. So I'm approaching this kind of with the same expectations that we had earlier in the year. I think last year we kind of came into it with pretty low expectations to just, be fun to watch. There was so many transfers coming in to the team. You had 4 of your 5 starters last year were transfers. There was a lot of change that was going on, and it ultimately was able to culminate together to a winning record and a team that did good in the Pac-12 tournament, a team that won their play-in game to appear in the NCAA tournament. Like, there was a lot of really cool things that happened last year. So the problem that we faced was so many of those guys are gone. Of the 4 transfers that came in last year to be full-time starters, one of them is left, Frankie Collins, the point guard. Warren Washington is gone, and the Cambridge brothers are gone. You lost a lot more than that, though. Duke Brennan is gone. DJ Horn, one of your other starters, is gone. So you only have 1 starter returning from last year. You also lost Enoch Vache. There's a lot of holes and depth that needs to be filled. And thankfully, the Sun Devils were incredibly, what's the word I was going to use? Aggressive. They're very aggressive in trying to fill in those holes with guys through the transfer portal. Like they bring in Adam Miller, they bring in Jose Perez, Malachi Davis, Kamari Land, Shawn Phillips, Zane Meeks. A lot of guys were brought into this program with the hope that they will be able to fill the shoes of so many guys you lost. You lose Horn, you lose Devin and Desmond Cambridge and Warren Washington, 4 starters of your 5. You lose depth pieces. Austin Nunez, one of your better deep shooters, gone. Luther Muhammad graduated. It's a new team. Now, taking a look at what you do have coming back, there's really 3 main depth players that are coming back. Frankie Collins, obviously, first and foremost, he's going to be the one who's kind of running the point. You will also have Jamiya Neal, breakout star. We'll talk about him a little more in a minute. And then Alonzo Gaffney. Those guys are going to be filling in those spots. And you're going to be having, Adam Miller, Jose Perez, Shawn Phillips are going to be filling in for other spots as well. So we take a look at our first expectation now, and it's that the new faces here are going to be able to gel over time. We want them to be able to work together to bring us a product that is fun to watch, which is another expectation that we'll talk about in just a little bit. But you want to see these guys come together. You want to see these guys, no matter if it's game 1 or it's game 30, right? At some point, you're hoping that some chemistry is able to build up to where you're having a competitive basketball program. You've got the talent here. Like Frankie Collins, really good point guard defensively and running the point. But you need him to do more than just that. He needs to take a step forward as a shooter and as a point scorer, not just a distributor. Jamiya Neal, he's a breakout guy. I'm going to talk about him a little more in depth in just a minute, I promise. Jamiya Neal's a stud. He's a total beast. Really like what he's got bringing to the table. But you also want to see those two become a little more synchronized together because they've got the experience with each other. They've gotten to play with each other for a year. Beyond them is a lot of new faces that you're hoping will be able to come together over time. Adam Miller, Jose Perez, those are two really important players. Now, Bobby Hurley has said that he anticipates Miller's waiver is going to go through, which means he will be eligible to play this year. Miller is a two-time transfer. He started at Illinois. He played at LSU last year. Now he's at Arizona State. So he's going through his waiver process. Hurley said he feels good about it. I have been checking every single day. I have not seen anything official or confirmed yet. So if I am totally blind and deaf to finding that information, please let me know. But I look every day. I don't see anything. I just know that they feel good about it. But even if he doesn't play, Jose Perez was also brought in from West Virginia to be another guy to put up points for you and be a good shooter. You are hoping that whether it's Miller, whether it's Perez, or whether it's both of them, that by midway point of the year, by the end of the year, by hopefully the postseason, you're having good chemistry with these guys, and you're not necessarily looking for one dude to be shooting the ball 20 times a game, to be shooting the ball 15 times a game. You want really good distribution across the board. You want Frankie Collins to be a better scorer. You would love for him to continue to be a facilitator. You would love for Adam Miller and Jose Perez and Malachi Davis to also be contributors for you as well. You want to see Shawn Phillips and Zane Meeks be those big guys to play underneath the rim, be aggressive off the glass. These are expectations that you're looking for to start, is that these guys are going to gel together and become a better program as the year goes on. Now, in that same breath, you are also looking for your breakout guys to break out. And of course, that starts with Jamiya Neal. Neal is a machine, man. I've talked about him before. I feel like now is a really good time to talk about him even more because we are getting ready for this season to get underway here in just over a week. And when I look at Jamiya Neal, I see somebody who's got so much potential here to turn into a superstar for the Sun Devils. He is going into his junior year. Last year was averaging 4.9 points a game. Nothing crazy, but he was also coming off the bench. And then he really came alive in the postseason. He had a 7-point performance, a 9-point performance, and an 11-point performance in the Pac-12 tournament in their 3 games, and that was coming off the bench. And then in the play-in game against Nevada, he exploded for a season-high 16 points. Like, he, when given the opportunity, has shown that promise to be such a great player. And he's listed as a forward on ESPN. He's listed as a guard in other places. Bottom line is, this is a guy who you just want on the court in one way or another. The fact that he can do multiple things for you because he's good defensively, he has shown the ability to be a good offensive guy as well. For what it's worth, last year he was shooting 34.7%, or that's his career. That's his career. Last year he was shooting 41.7%. His freshman year was an abysmal 23.8. So very much improved, almost 20%. But shooting almost 42% last year. 3-point is nothing great. Free throw percentage also needs to be improved. But these are areas that I anticipate are going to get better because he's going to have that experience. I look at Jamiya Neal as somebody who could potentially take that next step for Arizona State to become a superstar for the team. I truly, truly in my heart of hearts believe that this is the ceiling that Jamiya Neal has, is to be a very, very, very good player for the Sun Devils. Like, in the same breath as Remy Martin or Kamani Lawrence in the most recent years. I think he could be that kind of guy. He's got all this talent in the world, and if he's able to put it together, you're going to have an absolute menace on the court. He's not the only guy that I want to see take a step forward. I mentioned Frankie Collins. For what it's worth, even though we haven't seen him play yet, and I don't even know how big his role is going to be, you'd love to see Malachi Davis take a step forward too. transfer coming in from Tallahassee Community College. He went absolutely bonkers in the community college's version of the March Madness tournament. He went insane. He was averaging 40 points a game. You want to see that he's able to be a good producer at a Power 5, Power 6 level now compared to what he was doing. We know that he can explode, right? But can he do it against higher level competition? That's where our questions are coming in here. So you want to see Frankie Collins improve. You want to see Jamiya Neal take that next step. We want to see what Malachi Davis can do. Adam Miller wasn't a great shooter last year. Hopefully taking a step forward with him. Yeah, there's a lot of guys here. Lots of guys that we're really excited about, but we need them to be able to take that step forward as well so that we can figure out what we're going to end up doing with this basketball team this year. If these guys do take those steps forward, then it feels like the sky might be the limit for this team. I want to talk to you guys about our friends over at Game Time because you shouldn't need to worry about buying your tickets for a big event, especially at the last minute. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events, and more near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. That seat from your view is awesome because you can make sure that it's exactly what you want to see before you even buy your tickets. That all-in price shows your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without those hidden fees. You can buy your tickets in seconds. It's just 2 taps and you're good to go. They have tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats with flash deals, sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And of course, that Game Time guarantee makes sure that you have the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Guys, I just don't know what you're doing with your Fridays if you still have not checked out the Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. They go in depth every single Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. They're going to go through all sorts of fun, different stuff. They do playoff implications, conference rivalry games, and go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. You can find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern on any and all Locked On College YouTube channels, including this one. You won't want to miss it. I know I will be tuning in, especially with the playoffs right around the corner for us. Let's go ahead and get back into our conversation, taking a look at the expectations that we have for Sun Devils basketball this year. It kind of ties into what we initially talked about with these guys gelling and everything. We want them to be fun. You got to have a team that's fun to watch, even if you're losing games, right? Even if the Sun Devils have a sub 500 record this year, which I don't think they're gonna, for what it's worth. I think that they're going to be a really good team this year. But even if they're not, just put out something that I can watch. Don't put out a product that makes me groan knowing that I have to cover it, knowing that fans aren't going to be tuning into it because it's not fun to watch, because it's bad performances and all that jazz. You need to put together a performance on a regular basis that is exciting. And I think that you've got the guys to do it. You've got some really good options to be point scorers for the team. I mentioned Jamiya Neal a million times. I have a feeling that number 5 is going to end up being one of the main attractions of this team this year. But it's not just going to be on him. You're also going to need so many other guys to take those steps forward and show that they're also worthy of getting that notoriety and that attention. So you need Adam Miller to really step up his game. Last year, he was just over a 30% shooter. That's just not going to cut it, man. If he can't take that step forward, I mean, your best case scenario is he's another Desmond Cambridge Jr. And while Des was a ton of fun to watch, it was also infuriating to watch because of the inconsistency in his shooting. Like, I don't want another guy who's like all or nothing and just chucking balls up, because when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it just sucks to watch. Just call it as it is. There were times it was not fun to watch Des last year. That's what I don't want to see, because I feel like Adam Miller might fill that kind of role as the guy that you're anticipating is going to be putting up a lot of points. But if he's going to be just chucking the ball up, then I don't really know how much I want that. I want a guy who's going to be consistent. So if that means taking fewer shots, or heck, not even shooting the ball deep as much, then so be it. You got other guys too. Like I mentioned, Malachi Davis. What's he going to end up being like? Is he kind of like your sixth man, one of your main guys off the bench? Is he going to be almost redshirting a year? What do we got going on with Malachi Davis? And when he is on the court, because he clearly is a good point scorer, what's he going to look like? Is he going to be one of the secret weapons of this team? I don't really know. Your big guys, what are you going to get out of Zane Meeks? What are you going to get out of Shawn Phillips? You would love to see them be Warren Washington's, right? Where they're almost a walking double-double, but I don't know how realistic that is. So instead, I want to see those guys just be really good defenders, because if the Sun Devils are just getting dunked on and giving up nothing but deep shots, I got bad news. That's not fun to watch. Defense was really quality for the Sun Devils last year. They were top 50 for the majority of the season in points per game, in shooting percentage, all that good stuff. Hopefully that stays the same this year, because it's fun to watch a team that is able to keep games close. Obviously, we prefer when teams are putting up 90 points. But for the Sun Devils, when they're playing good defense, they're fun to watch. When they're getting steals and blocks and they're just holding teams to having to throw up shots at the last second because the defense is so sticky and they're holding you to the end of the shot clock, like, you take that and run. So I'm really hoping that the defense is able to pick up their pace there. I'm looking to see that some guys can take a step forward. I mentioned Frankie Collins earlier. If Collins becomes a better point scorer, he's going to be one of the best kept secrets in the Pac-12. Like, he's a great facilitator and a defender right now. I want to see him become a guy who can consistently put up 12 points, right? I'm not asking for superstars here. I would love that out of Jamiya Neal, but I'm not asking for anyone else to be that. I just want guys who are going to be able to be good players on a consistent basis. That starts with understanding your fundamentals, understanding your situations, and just making the most out of them. So don't force the deep ball. If it's not there, don't shoot it. If it's there, of course. But part of being an exciting team is understanding situations. If you're shooting 40 to 50% from the field and 20% from deep, but you're limiting those deep shots because you know they're not there, that's a lot better than the 20% when you're just trying to shoot from deep. I would rather you take what's there, because the points are just going to be more important at the end of the day. I really do like what this team has. You just need to make sure that you've learned from your mistakes last year of trying to force those deep shots. Hopefully you're taking that step forward. The defense, I'm really anticipating, is going to be just about where it was last year. So from here, I just need you to be smarter with your shot selection. You do that, it's going to be a fun team to watch. And at the end of the day, that's really what I'm looking forward to most out of this team. I just want a Sun Devils team that's going to be fun to watch this year. Score early in the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide variety of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And again, wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. We're going to be wrapping this bad boy up right now as we go ahead and discuss the final expectation we have, and that's make the tournament. And I will not apologize for that. We should be doing that on a consistent basis. We should be seeing the Sun Devils make the tournament more often than not. You're one of the biggest universities in the country. You've got a very, very quality head coach, if not a very good head coach, and Bobby Hurley, who's been with the program for almost 10 years at this point. He should be able to assemble a team that is going to the postseason. I feel like that is the bare minimum here, is going to the postseason. What you did a year ago was fantastic. You wonder if it was catching lightning in a bottle. You truly do, because what were the odds that your transfer class was going to produce 4 out of 5 starters and you were going to see everybody that came into the program have an important role? You know, Warren Washington was really good on defense, and Frankie Collins ran the court, and Devin Cambridge was an all-around player, and Desmond Cambridge was a great shooter for the most part. The odds of you replicating that again, you know, they're stacked against you. But nonetheless, that's still what the expectation is I want to see a team that is fun to watch. I want to see a team that is gelling throughout the year. I want to see guys take the next step. And if those all come to fruition, then you should make the tournament. That's where I'm at with this team. You need to be able to get yourself into March. I don't know how they can't. I understand the Pac-12 is a very good conference right now with U of A, with UCLA, with USC, any other programs that I might be sliding. I know Oregon is typically up there. I think Washington has a sneaky team, but there's no reason ASU can't be in that second tier. They're not UCLA and they're not U of A. I get it. They're still a quality team. They still have a really stable coaching staff. They've got a lot of talent, both returning and coming through the transfer portal. For what it's worth, your freshman class is really interesting. Andrew Mayock, I could not find any recruiting on him. Braylon Green was a really high 3-star. Akil Watson was a 4-star. How do they get involved? I have no idea. But they're there. You've got lots of exciting talent here. Veteran, transfers, freshmen, and otherwise. To me, there's no excuse to not be a quality team this year, and quality typically will get you at least in the top 68 teams for a play-in game. This is a very good team on paper. Paper doesn't win championships. It doesn't win games. This is where you need the team to be able to come together and show that they're worthy of the praise that I'm giving them and that others are giving them. I'm really curious what some people's expectations are. Drop it in the comments and let me know what you're expecting out of this team this year. But this is what I'm expecting. My expectations. This is going to be a fun team to watch. You're going to see some development from guys. They're going to get better as the season goes on. And hopefully you make the tournament. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What are your expectations for this team? Let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter as well. I'm always there at Richie Brads 36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. I appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Remember, wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys tuning in for the double feature today. We will be back talking some more football on tomorrow's edition of the podcast. I will see you guys then. Until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.